Hello, I'm so grateful that you're back with us as we are all trying to connect with ourselves, love ourselves more, and to love our lives. So, one of the ways we do that is we find things that we're interested in. And I'm going to tell you that today you are going to be interested in what our speaker, Annie Meehan, has to share. We all have disruptions in our lives or just get blindsided by something. And Annie shares her journey and shares how to have grace with ourselves and how to soar above our circumstances on our journey of loving our life. Annie, I'm excited to learn from you and hear your perspective on loving your life. Will you please introduce yourself to our audience?
Yeah, I'm Annie Meehan. I'm an international keynote speaker and a national award-winning author with 9 books.
We're so excited to hear what you have to share.
Yeah.
But first, when I say love your life, what comes to your mind?
Yeah, so many things. I think that's where it all starts. I think that's where success starts, is loving yourself first and loving your life and loving the people who are in it. And I used to always have a busy. People used to say, you're so busy, you're so busy. And I was like, in 2020, actually, I said, enough of the busy. I don't want to be busy anymore. I want to be fulfilled. So I have a full plate of exactly what I want. The people I want, the activities I want, living in the location I want, talking to my children almost daily. Loving my life is about doing work that has meaning and that is significant. Loving my life is about having a marriage that I pour into and a husband that pours into me and supports me as a person, but as a business owner. So loving my life is about having the right stuff on my plate, not just a busy full plate, but a fulfilled plate, and removing the things that don't serve me or my family or the people that I love.
Yeah, that's so good just to take some moments and just realize what lights you up and what fills your spirit and make sure that is a part of your day and a part of your life. So, you talk about navigating disruption. Can you share a little bit about that with our audience?
Sure. So my 8th book is called Choose to Soar, and it's about navigating disruption. It was inspired by fulfilling a dream, which I always say to people, be careful what we wish for, because I had a 30-year dream of living at the beach, which is where I live. I live on Fort Myers Beach. I'm looking out my office window at the Gulf of Mexico. And so it's beautiful here. For 30 years, I dreamed of living here, and we visited here every year for 30 years. And then we bought, and it was beautiful and lovely for 11 months. And then 11 months to the day that we bought, a hurricane hit our home. And that literal disruption inspired me to think about that we all face disruption. We face disruption in business, whether that's filing bankruptcy or getting fired or being overlooked for promotion, whether it's disruption in life by death and diagnosis and divorce, or whether it's disruption literally by a hurricane or tornado. I've been through a lot of disruption in my life. And what I realized is I didn't want to teach people how to just survive or thrive. I wanted to teach them how to soar above. And what I mean by that is, don't let disruption define the rest of your life. Soar above your circumstances. Because I think sometimes we get so stuck in the pain or the disruption or the storm that we forget kind of about loving our lives, all the other beauty and blessing we still have around us, because we get so fixated on the pain or the disruption that we lose sight of the good things. And that's really what I love to help people. Yes, acknowledge and feel it, and give yourself grace about how long you need to sit in it, but then move on and don't let it define the rest of your life.
And so, how do you soar? How do you teach people to soar above the disruption? How did you do it, when the hurricane hit?
Yeah. I remember when the hurricane hit, a lot of my speaker friends were all like, you should write a book, you should do a keynote. I was like, heck no, I'm trying to survive here. And one of the sayings I said a lot, I did a lot of YouTube Live during that time because I couldn't talk to people one-on-one. I was so overwhelmed, but I could express what was happening to a larger population in one place. And I remember saying that, so I do acronyms because they help me learn and they help other people learn. So the S stood for like sit in it, be sad, be stressed, and acknowledge and feel all those feelings. Don't try to push by them. But the T was about time. And part of the way that I'm able to soar is that you give yourself grace and time. I have heard so many sad stories, and I've been through a lot of trauma in my life that I always say, you're on your own timeline. There's no right or wrong timeline. The R stands for reliable relationships, and nothing against, some people are just great people to have in your life for fun and social, but they are not necessarily your reliable in a trauma or disruption. So have 1 to 5 people that really can be there at 2 a.m, and you don't have to be okay in front of, and they don't have to fix you. They can just be with you in the sadness. So knowing who those reliable people that can just sit with you in your disruption for a moment, for a season. O stands for staying open. And this is partially the beginning of the soaring, is that stay open to who I meet, stay open to what I can learn, stay open to how I can serve others, even in the midst of my own pain, and who can serve me in the midst of disruption, or serve you in the midst of your disruption. M's for motivated mindset. And one of my favorite sayings, Sharon, is that Shannon, sorry, is what's in your medicine cabinet? And people are like, what does that mean? Why are you asking me? That's kind of a private thing, right? People close their medicine cabinet, and I go, oh, I mean, what's in your medicine cabinet that you can't live without every day? And is it Advil or caffeine or alcohol or drugs, or is it movement and music and laughter and good people and blueberries and just whatever things you use? And so I talk about what's in my medicine cabinet is movement's medicine for me. Movement's a non-negotiable. It's not whether or not I want to do it. It's that when I do it, I remember what I love about my life. When I do it, I get grounded back into the earth instead of spinning in the chaos. And so keeping a motivated mindset means I protect what I see and hear and who I spend time with. And that sometimes we have Eeyores in our life, or sometimes we become an Eeyore, but we can't give too much to that. We have to have a balance of Tiggers and Poos. And I like Winnie the Pooh, so I use that as like, what's in your medicine cabinet? If I looked at your shelves, and what do you want to remove and what do you want to replace? And then the last S is about soaring. And so soaring is giving yourself that time and looking for those other things. And you get to then you go, wait a minute, this was a disruption. It was not a defining moment. This was hard. I am sad, but there is hope and there is good stuff in my life too. And it gives us that moment of reflection on perspective. So every morning I walk the beach with my dog, and if I look to the left, it's gorgeous. It's the water, the waves, the dolphins, everything that delights me. But if I look to the right, it's still devastation. It's destroyed buildings and businesses and homes. So I get to decide, where will I look? What will I focus on? And so a lot of soaring is about where we focus and our perspective in the midst of the disruption.
I love that. Yes. And tell everybody again, what does SOAR stand for again? Just
storms. So it's
storms. Okay.
yeah, storms is the word, and soaring is where we get to as we go through our storms. So the S stands for stillness, stress, and sadness. Let it happen. T stands for timetable. Give yourself timetable. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no certain amount of time. We're all different, right? R is for reliable relationships. O is about staying open to opportunities to learn and grow in deeper relationships and in mindset. M is for a motivated mindset, and S is for soar above those storms.
That's awesome. I love that, because I think we can all probably look back on our lives and the times where we did have the storms, if we allowed them to, if we were open, then they helped take us to our next level. We learned so much from them. We, figured out what was important to us and where our strengths lie and what we can rely on. And if we didn't have them, we would go out and find them. So I love that acronym. And it really is where you place your focus, because there's always going to be stuff. And so, where are we going to go? Okay. So if you have so much strength and you have so much wisdom, what if they hear you? What's something they can do daily to start cultivating habits or patterns that's going to help them with this SOAR mindset and overcome storms?
Absolutely. I'm a huge, huge believer in routine. And I think when you go through a storm or a disruption, you can really get out of your routine. I always say I'm not that great at rules, but routines and rituals have saved my life. So I'm a woman of faith, and I get up every morning, and the first thing I do is walk my dog. So I walk my dog on the beach, and as soon as I get back from that, I make myself a spark or a coffee, and I sit on my lanai or I sit inside and I read God's word. So I get into the Bible and I read and I pray for myself and I pray for other people. And pretty much my biggest prayer is help me to be more like Jesus and less like me, because I am messy, but he does it pretty well. So how about be more like that? And then I try to do some sort of strength routine or something, and then get some good antioxidants, whether that's nuts or berries or whatever it is. But like I said, movement's medicine. So I start with movement, getting my body moving and thinking. Then I go into prayer. Then I do some other sort of strength. Or I love this woman called Fabulous 50s on YouTube. And she has 3-minute videos and 7 minutes, but she's for Fabulous 50, over 50 and being fabulous. And then get some good nutrition in my body. And I try to do all that before, well, sometimes I get up at 4 a.m. and I'm done by 7, sometimes by 9, but I try not to sit at my desk until I have at least 5,000 steps in, until I've done my reading of scripture, until I've done my quiet time of prayer, and gotten some good nutrition. So when I sit down, I have that energy to give to others. Now, when you go through a storm, you can't necessarily get right back to that. But if you set the perimeters, do it before you need it, of a morning routine, an evening routine, calming down, turning off your phone, turning off the TV, listening to meditation, having quiet time, then it's easier to get back. Even if I would say, okay, I can't do all 4 of those. I don't have any energy, but I can do one. I can do one. So for me, it's having those routines and rituals to start and end your day really help you get back on track when a storm does hit, even if you do one.
Right. I so agree. The patterns and rituals that help make that feeling and that energy and that knowledge, wisdom, your norm, so that when things happen, you can go, okay, this isn't what's familiar to me. Okay, I'm going to take what I need to take from it and learn what I need to learn. I'm going to get back to my stillness, my movement, my inspiration, and that's where you're grounded. And so I love, your patterns. So what about people that like obstacles are going to come up? What are some things that prevent people from doing this, and what can they think about, or maybe think about what's going on in their mind that is going to help them get into some kind of routine?
Yeah. Even as you were responding to my answer, what I was thinking about is when the hurricane hit our home, we literally walked off our island, and I had a grocery cart and a wagon, 2 dogs, 3 computers, and 2 bags of clothes. And so I want to offer you all a lot of grace. If you are going through a storm or a crisis, I sobbed, I cried. Feel what you feel. One of the things I always like to encourage people is some people are more comfortable if we're okay, and people want us to be okay, and sometimes we're not okay. And I kept saying to myself and out loud, I am safe, but I'm not okay. I'm safe, but I'm not okay. And so the first thing I want to say is feel what you feel. Feel what you feel and start small. I always want you to build on wins, right? Like, so drink a glass of water, take a shower once every 3 days if you can't take a shower every day. Get out of bed and sit in a chair. Like, sometimes life punches us in the gut and we literally get the wind knocked out of us and we can't breathe. So start small. 1 glass of water, 1 shower, one, I own gyms. I used to have 2 gyms for 12 years, one in a small town and one in a big city. And I would tell people, they're like, Annie, I can't do that. I'm like, it's okay. All I want you to do is 3 times circle your kitchen island. 3 times, that's it. Make it as so small that other people might dismiss it, but I will never dismiss it. The smallest thing we do to take care of ourselves, to help us be better. And we do 3 rounds around our kitchen island, and then we do 5. We drink 1 glass of water, and then we drink 2. We take a shower every 3 days, and then every 2 days. Then we get back to every day. Giving yourself the grace that when you feel like you can't breathe or think or sleep or eat, to just rest in that. And one of the big things I love to encourage people is feel what you feel without apology. So often I will listen to people and they'll say, I'm sorry, I'm sad. I'm sorry, I'm excited. I'm sorry, I'm angry. I'm sorry. And I'm like, no, I just am sad. I am stressed. I am excited. Feel what you feel without apology. So little, and build on that. And I never assume, I did not know how to take care of myself growing up. I did not have a mother that taught me that. She really taught us that it was selfish to care for yourself. So I have retrained my brain to know, not think, but know it is not only not selfish to take care of yourself, it is self-full. And when I am full, I am more fulfilled, and then I am able to fill other people. And so little steps count, whether that's physical steps or drinking water or taking naps. Don't apologize if you need a nap. Take a nap. The body is exhausted when you're going through trauma and disruption.
Definitely. And yeah, and if you can just sit in it and just really feel it instead of trying to push it away or be happy or do what you're supposed to do, it almost allows it to dissipate a little bit if you can just allow it to be there. And then you can connect with inspiration, just like you say, just something will come, even if it's like you said, like take a walk around. That might seem like, well, what's that going to do? It's going to get you moving, and now your body's flowing a little bit, and another idea will come. It's going to lead you to, your next step that can help walk you out of how you're feeling. And then sometimes we go back down, and it's okay. What you're feeling is okay. Just as we release into it, seems to open up. So going back to loving your life, what are some other things that you do when you are feeling down? So you've done your pattern, you did your morning work, you did that, and maybe something like a hurricane doesn't come along, but something comes along all the time and just sort of knocks you off, and you feel yourself getting irritated or triggered. What do you do?
Yeah. And I do think that is why I wrote the book, is what I realized after the hurricane is everybody faces disruption all the time. Little disruption, big disruption, interruption, disruption. And I'm like, category 1, category 5. So
Yeah.
I feel like I have to be conscious of this all the time. So one of my books is called Be the Exception. And people are like, how did you become the exception? I said, oh, I'm not. I work on it every day. So you're exactly right, is that what do I do and how do I do it? I have, for one thing, I make intentional choices all the time, but I also 100%, that is why the S is sadness, stillness, stress. Sit in it and be with it. So what do I do when interruptions and storms hit me? I think breath work is so important. I forget about it and I can breathe out of here. Okay, I'm going, oh, what else? And I'm like, slow down, which is not my nature, and breathe. So something as simple as slow down and breathe is where I try to go to when interruption and disruption happen, starting there. I give myself a lot of grace. Now I work for myself and I say I'm one of the hardest bosses I've ever worked for, if not the hardest, but I also know when my brain's not working. And when I'm overwhelmed, I'm like, don't sit at your desk and pretend to write or think or respond. Get away. So one of the things I do on a daily is I get away, whether that's sitting on my lanai, going for a walk, getting on the couch, taking a nap, watching a silly movie. I love rom-coms, so romantic comedies. Some people don't know that. I love to watch silly and romantic and happily ever after things, because even though I know that's pretend, that pretend helps rewire my brain to remember there is good and there is hope and there is silliness and happiness and love in the world. And partially the way that I love my life is that connecting with my kids. I have 3 beautiful adult children. I love talking with them. I drive them crazy. I send them goofy memes. And my daughter said to me, because I have 2 sons, and you were text me too much. And I go, I'm sorry. I just get bored and I love you. And I'm always thinking of you. And she goes, would you do that to my brothers? And I'm like, oh, I do it all the time. She goes, well, do they respond? And I go, oh, no, they don't respond. She goes, well, I'm worried you'll be mad. I go, I won't be mad. I just do it to you because I think of you. Something makes me laugh. My husband and I have date night at least once a week. We are pretty good about being intentional. We walk together. We talk together. He's very calm. I'm very high energy. We balance, right? So there's a lot of things I do every single day to protect my mental health. My mother's mentally ill, 96, undiagnosed, untreated mental illness. I grew up in a hoarder home. And so disruption and chaos has been part of my whole life. And so I have to work at it every day. I never get to take for granted, nor do I want to take for granted my mental and emotional health. I work on it every day. I work on doing things. I work on sitting and doing nothing. I work on learning to love myself and celebrate my good work in the world, whether that's in relationships or in speaking or whatever it is that I'm working on.
I think we're not really taught to accept compliments or to really love ourselves. It's more conditioned to, oh, I didn't do this right. And so just to sit in it. What went good today? For me, we focus, God is, and I'm like, how did I, fully express God today? Or when somebody gives a compliment. I used to think when I was young, when somebody gave me a compliment, if I said thank you, it felt like I was going, yeah, you're right. I am. And so I couldn't. And then I had a friend that could accept a compliment. She'd just be like, thank you so much. And it was so genuine. And I was so touched by her being touched by it. It's something just to appreciate ourselves. It's a way that we can, love ourselves, and we can all feel what lights us up. And so if we can just bring more of that into our experience.
Yeah, something that I say often now when I'm speaking, especially to women's groups, but mixed too, I'll say like, I get up in the morning and I look in the mirror and I just think, holy cow, how did you get to be so good looking? And I pause and half the audience laughed and half the audience looked appalled. But then I say this, isn't that what you say? And one of the saddest things that I get on my comment card, just even last week again, 2 women wrote to me, I look in the mirror every day and I tell myself how ugly I am. And it hurts my heart because what I'm trying to show and remind people is if that I do not love me, if I do not think I am a masterpiece with beautiful gifts to give to the world, then how the heck could anyone else like me? And if I look in the mirror and I berate the way I look, who I am as a human, how my mind works, then I show up crabby and people say, what is your problem? But really the problem started way before it's not about other people. It's about how we treat ourselves. And so a huge part of my work and my love is teaching and showing women how to, but in particular women, sometimes men, but in particular, how to love themselves. And owning gyms for 12 years and working with thousands of clients, I say, I never helped anybody lose weight, but I helped them change their habits, change their routines and their rituals, but more than anything, change their self-talk. And a side effect was weight loss because they didn't work out anymore because they had to, or because they ate ice cream, or because they were ugly, or because they did it because they loved themselves and it brought them joy and energy to move their body, to care for their body. And so it is probably the most important line in my presentations, at least to me today, is asking people after I say that and they kind of laugh or they don't, is that arrogant? Is that whatever? But what if you really loved yourself? What if you really knew your value and you had that love? It would pour out of you. It doesn't take from you. It multiplies the love you have toward yourself out into the world. And I think people think they can hate themselves and love others, but we really can't. And it's gut-wrenching to me because I was so naive for the first 20 years of my life. And I thought I was the only person that hated myself and thought everything was wrong with me. And I wanted to be like anyone else. And I look at people, and society has taught us to do this, and yet has also trained us it's not true. You look at famous people and successful people, and I think of Kate Spade often. I love her work, and she has some beautiful products. And here she is, gorgeous and colorful and beautiful and successful in many people's minds financially, and her brand. And yet she is no longer with us, right? She died by suicide. And so I think be careful ever thinking someone has it easier or better than you. It might look like that, but there are so many hurting people that don't love themselves. So I think loving your life starts 100% with loving yourself, loving your goofy self, your beautiful self, your messy self, your complicated. I think when you have that, you can use your gifts for good and do the good work to reach out to other people and pour into them. So that was a long answer.
So good. Just love whatever brings a smile to your face and just love that, love that. And the more love you can bring to something that you can truly love, then the more it's going to amplify and you'll be able to find it in other parts of your life as well. But I want to go back to when the people said that, they look at themselves and they only have negative things to say. I'm sure that there are people that are watching this that feel that, like, what can you say to them to help them with that shift that needs to happen so that they can start seeing the value of them and the beauty of them and the love that is them?
I love that. So important. And it breaks my heart. And I want to say something. I have so many things to say. The first thing I want to say is that because of being a woman of faith, it really was a shift for me in believing what I believed about myself, and everything I was lacking and broken and ugly and useless is I decided to believe what God said about me. And he does not say that. He says I am amazing and incredible and
Yes.
gloriously made and all of the other great things. But I also know some of you may not know the Lord like I know the Lord. And so whether you have a faith or not, I want you to know you are precious, you are needed, you are beautiful. And what I want you to think about, the one first thing kind of in shifting that, especially if you're self-critical about your looks or your mind or where you are in your life and what your past looks like, your detours. What I want you to think about is, imagine, I'm getting chills saying this because I can see it happening. Imagine that you are outside your body and you are talking to who you were as a little girl. And imagine you are the friend or the nurturer of that little girl. A lot of us didn't grow up with nurturing. I didn't grow up with that. So I had to learn to nurture myself. I had to learn to understand what was lacking and how I could help heal that. And so what I want you to think about is just imagine saying just one kind thing to that woman, little girl. So put yourself out of yourself and look at yourself and look for one kind thing, one good thing. So a lot of people talk about affirmation cards. I like to call them belief cards. And here's the trick that a lot of people don't know. So when writing an affirmation or a belief card, write it on an index. So you write 4 that you want to believe. Like before I ever spoke internationally or coached all the people I get to work with around the world, I started writing them. I'm an international success. I'm a sought after speaker. I'm a sought after coach. I'm a highly valued, a well paid, whatever. I would write things about my business. But the 5th card, so write things about your business on index cards, but the 5th one has to be silly. It has to be not true and kind of dorky. Like I'll say, I'm a 6 foot tall, super fit model. That is not true. I may seem tall on video, but I am fun size in real life. But it makes me laugh. I'll just say, I'm a 6 foot tall, super fit model, and I'll laugh. Or I'll say, my dogs are the best behaved dogs in the neighborhood. That may not be true, but it makes me laugh. Why you need to do that is because your brain, how it's absorbing, you write 4 serious ones, and the 5th is silly. You write 4 more serious, and the 10th is silly. But I like to call them belief cards. You set them on your bedside. I had 25 of them at one point, and every 5th one was a silly one. Put them on my bedside. I wouldn't do it perfectly. I don't do anything perfectly. Read them before I go to bed. Read them when I wake up in the morning. Sometimes I'd read 3. Sometimes I'd read 10. Sometimes I'd read none. Sometimes I'd read 25. Those little statements, make them small and make them sweet. I'm kind. I'm beautiful. People love me. I'm wise. I have gifts. I have something to offer. I was seen today. I saw someone today. Someone made me smile. I made someone smile. Those little teeny tangible notes, the reason I call them belief rather than affirmation is if you read them enough, you will start to believe them and then you'll start to live them out. And the second part is get out of yourself and serve another. No matter how sad I've been in life or the trauma and tragedy I've gone through, it's when I go back and think, okay, I feel like so depleted. I have nothing, but I'm going to make myself go smile at somebody. I'm going to make myself buy a cup of coffee. I'm going to hold the door for somebody that walks so slow that it's driving me crazy inside, but I'm going to keep holding it until they get through it because I always feel better when I do something for someone else. So those are some simple, tangible ways to shift that.
Yeah, for sure. I love that. A lot of times I and my clients, I really big on voice notes. And so those belief statements, I have them written down, but then I will record it in my voice notes. And so if I'm starting to get triggered or just starting to feel, low, and I know it's probably just something I've drug along with me, I got irritated, I'll sit with it first and I'm like, yeah, I'm okay. I'm just sort of irritated. I'll just put those on and those statements, are going. I'm like, no, this is the truth about me. This is the truth about my precious self. This is what God sees. And I love it when you were talking about to see your young child to do that as well, for myself and my clients. And if you can just love on the little you, y'all, this is such a powerful thing. And so if you can really do it, love on that little you and tell her or him how amazing they are and that is just going to lift your spirit so much. And you can give you ideas to write down. So thank you so much for sharing that and reminding us of that. Is there anything else that you'd like to share with our audience today?
So one of my sayings that I love to share with people, and it is a TED Talk, but I'll just give you a snippet of it, is be a pineapple person. And for some of you, you might know the pineapple poem. I did not know it when somebody called me a pineapple person, but it is be a pineapple, stand up straight, wear a crown, and be sweet on the inside. So it's kind of cute and sweet. But what I believe, what I know is that we all have a story behind our story. We have our front forward story, and then we have our secret story, and then we have a deep secret story, many of us. But the pineapple principle, that poem, I said, how do I take the poem, turn it into a principle? Well, what I do is I think about what is the story behind the poem. So I thought about when we stand up tall in a world where most of us are looking down at our phone, and I'll just be with you in just a minute, we have lost sight of looking each other in the eye. So I love the idea of stand up, look people in the eye, wear a crown. When we have a crown on, we know we're valuable, but then we see your crown and we know you're valuable too. And so I tell people, I don't walk every day because I want to walk. I want to lay in bed and eat donuts. But then I remember I got a crown on and I'm valuable. So I get out of bed, I drink some water, and I go for a walk. Not because I always want to, but because I'm worth it. And that's what a crown does. And when you're sweet on the inside, what comes out of your mouth and your keyboard and your text is kindness, love, and encouragement. So I have a TED Talks called Life Lessons from a Pineapple, and I'd love for you guys to watch it. But it's really that simple. Let's connect. Let's be kind first. And I think when we start with seeing ourselves, being sweet to ourselves, valuing ourselves, it's easier to be sweet, kind, and value other people and see other people, right? And so that's kind of what I leave you with is please join me in being a pineapple person. I hope some of my tips today encourage you on your journey through life, through disruptions and interruptions that we all face.
I love it. Thank you so much. Do you have a free gift for our audience today?
I do have a free gift. I think what I said I was giving is I have a word handout about storms for you to kind of work through and talk through, and you can kind of use it as you fill in the blank listening to this. And I think I also offered a 30-minute coaching with me. So there's a link to schedule that, and we can talk about where are you feeling stuck. So kind of my work is helping people move from stuck to soaring in their life. So first we identify where you're kind of stuck or spinning, and how do we get to soaring? So yes.
Wow, thank you. That is so generous. And everybody in the email that you got today, there'll be links for that. So check that out. And then Annie, how can people, you have these books, where can people find you and follow you?
Amazon is the best place to get any of my 9 books on Kindle, Audible, or paperback. But LinkedIn is where I'm mostly active, or YouTube. I like to do a video a day to just encourage people. So
Love that. Okay. So much goodness. Thank you so much. And please go and try some of these things. If we're not trying them, then we're not going to figure out what works for us.
2 books. Here's the Choose to Soar, and here's the Be the Exception. These are the 2 most content books if you're looking for some tools.
Awesome. Go and get those. So much goodness.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. We really appreciate it, Annie.
Thank you for having me. Good luck to all of you.
Thank you. And remember, you're blessed and you are a blessing, and feel the love that surrounds you. Bye-bye. I'll see you in the next video.